This video will offer you an alternative perception, something that you may not have considered before when it comes to dealing with a difficult situation in your life or difficult emotions you might be experiencing, and that is to accept them. So let me explain what I mean. Let's say you have a relative, an annoying relative, maybe well-meaning relative, but annoying nevertheless, like an uncle. I'm sure we all have that annoying uncle who tells bad jokes, who comes around uninvited, who knocks on your door, who keeps calling you. They just don't seem to have any sense of boundaries or any sense of self-awareness. They may even make comments that make you feel bad about yourself, and it's just not pleasant to be around them. But yet there they are at your door wanting to come in. So you have several options. You don't want this person at this moment in your life. You don't enjoy their presence, and you're dealing with the difficult emotions as a result of that. And so you're faced with, I can either fight back, which is argue back, or tell them I don't like it. Now, sometimes that's quite effective. You put in boundaries, but sometimes that doesn't work. You might put in boundaries, but they yet again come back and back. The problem persists. Or you might feel like, oh, I've tried to fight this thing. I'm just going to move away or have distance. I'm going to ignore their calls. I'm not going to open the door when they arrive. But then you've got to think, even though that helps you not to deal with them directly, they're still having an impact on your life. They're still ruling your life in a way because you feel like you have to avoid certain places, or you can't be online at certain times in case they see you. Things like this where it's still having a detrimental impact on your life. And so the alternative may well be to accept them and accept how you feel about them. And there is a slight difference. And it sounds like defeat, doesn't it? Like I'm telling you, oh, you should accept the situation, that there's nothing you can do about it. You're powerless. Just accept it. It's the easiest thing to do. And that's not what true acceptance is. So think about the times in your life you've had to deal with that. It might be something you're dealing with now or something you've dealt with recently, and that you either have been fighting back or trying to run away from it, have distance, trying to escape the problem you're experiencing, and it could be any problem, or you might even feel trapped. This is probably why you stumbled across this video, because you put it in YouTube, how to get over a situation and how to try and accept it. So let us explore acceptance together. So when nothing seems to have worked, acceptance might just be the key for you to finally move on with your life and move past the experience that you've been facing, or learn to live with it if it's something that's simply unavoidable. I say you don't have to let it happen, and you can move past it because you're the one who has that decision to make. Because either one of two things is going to happen. Either the situation is going to change, or you're going to change. Ask yourself, which one is the quickest? Which one is the quickest? And it may be the quickest thing, may not be the easiest thing. How likely is it that the situation you're facing is going to change anytime soon? And if it's not, then that leaves you. That leaves you to be the one to change, to adapt to the situation. And it doesn't mean that you're allowing that thing that you're experiencing to win. It's nothing about that. It's about you asserting control back over your life and managing the difficulty you're experiencing. And the skills you learn in that process is transferable, can transfer to relationships, friendships, things, difficulties at work, conflicts, every aspect of life. And so the quickest change, like I said, does not necessarily mean it's going to be the easiest. And the quickest change is often a change that can come from you. So now let's dive into, what does that actually mean? How do I accept something? So there is a type of therapy called acceptance and commitment therapy. A type of therapy that's specifically designed to allow you to process a difficult situation you're experiencing and start to accept it and thereby move on with your life. And there's 4 A's within this model of therapy that I want to share with you. The first is acknowledgement. Acknowledge the difficult emotions you're experiencing as a result of the difficult situation you're in. Basically label what you're feeling. So it might be you have that annoying relative, you feel annoyed, you feel frustrated because they don't listen, you feel angry at them because they're imposing on your life, they're making you feel a certain way. So you feel anger, frustration, all of these negative feelings, right? So you've labeled them. Like, I've caught you, I understand I'm feeling this way, I've labeled you, this is how I'm feeling. Then you move on to allow. By allow, you allow those emotions to be present in your life. You allow them to be there. You don't reject them. You don't run away from them. You don't say, you shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be feeling angry or whatever. You be like, no, I acknowledge I'm feeling angry and I'm going to allow myself to be angry. I'm going to allow myself to be frustrated because this is how I feel because of the situation. And it might be because of this guy or this person or this event that happened that I'm feeling this way. You might have anger towards that event, but nevertheless, you still feel angry. So allow yourself to feel angry. Once you've done that, you can then move to accommodate. So it's only by allowing and acknowledging the feelings you're experiencing, you can then move on to accommodating them. And what that means is inviting them into your life and making decisions based upon those feelings. So you're not rejecting them, you're not in denial, you're very well aware of how you're feeling, you've allowed yourself to experience those feelings, and now you are factoring in those feelings in your decision making about what you want to do next. And the final step through that process is to appreciate them. Now, that might be very difficult to hear because you're like, in fact, I don't appreciate them. I'd rather they be gone. But the negative feelings, once you accept them, once you allow them in, and once you factor them into any decisions you make, you will find that the decisions you make as a consequence of allowing those negative feelings in will mean you make wiser choices. Choices that factor in all aspects of how you feel. And as a consequence of making those choices, you will feel better because you factored in everything. If you don't factor in your negative feelings, guess what? They're still there. They're not going away. And they're going to come back with a vengeance saying, wait a minute, you've made this decision, but you haven't listened to me. I'm not going away. And it's going to ring alarm bells. So when you factor that in, you then learn to appreciate that they were there for a reason. The negative feelings you experience are there for a reason. They are a signal that they want to be heard and that you can make the wiser choice by acknowledging them. So that is essentially the fundamental premise of acceptance and commitment therapy, and that's something you can do at home. But it starts with self-awareness, and the self-awareness starts with labeling how I'm feeling. At the moment, I'm feeling quite calm. At the moment, I'm feeling hungry. I feel quite angry. Just label the emotions, and once you label the emotions, you will notice you will have a better ability to regulate them because you've identified them. It's that simple. It comes down to the smallest actions. Another step you can take is something called cognitive delusion. Cognitive delusion. No, not cognitive delusion. Cognitive diffusion. Another step you can take is cognitive diffusion. So cognitive diffusion is, like I said before, the labeling. So you're essentially separating yourself cognitively from the emotions you're experiencing, and you're doing that by distancing yourself and say, okay, I'm experiencing the anger and it's taking over, but let me label it and catch it in the act. And that's what cognitive diffusion is. It's catching it in the act. So it's labeling and observing. You become an observer, and by merely taking that stance, you're stepping out of your emotional brain, in a sense, and seeing yourself from another person's point of view. Therefore, you have clarity of what exactly you're experiencing and what is the best decision to make from there. So the first step is going into an observer mode, and you can do that quite effectively by labeling what your emotions are. If you're struggling to do that, write them down. Do whatever it takes to just identify every difficult emotion you're experiencing, and you can see it in front of you on the piece of paper if that helps. And remember that even though those negative experiences and those emotions can seem all-consuming, it can take over, you are more than that. And it is through that process of labeling it that you can see, actually, I've been going through this. This has been quite stressful. You see the impact it's having on you. And then from that point, get to that point first. From that point, you can then decide what's best for you. And another point I want to raise here is about committed action. Taking action despite how you feel. You see people on YouTube talking about this, like David Goggins. He's an example of someone who's quite famous about this, which is despite how he feels about something, despite the physical pain he's going through, he still runs. He still goes for that run. He still does those pull-ups and push-ups, despite what his body is telling him. And that's quite an extreme example, but is an example, nevertheless, of someone who takes action despite how they feel. Because it's only through taking the action and seeing the consequences on the other side of taking that action that give you that benefit. So when you take action, you get a benefit that you would never have gotten unless you've taken that action in the first place. And it's about just plowing ahead despite how you feel, and you will see the benefits. And a good example of this is like going to the gym. I can't be bothered to go to the gym. I had too much to drink last night. I'm feeling really tired. It's bad rain outside. You make all kinds of excuses not to go because you're trying to justify how you're feeling. You're feeling lazy. You're not in the mood. But you look for reasons why you should not go. But actually, you know this. If you just go, get out the door, that's probably the hardest bit. Once you're at the gym and you start working out, you're going to feel much better. You're going to feel positive about yourself, fitter, have a clarity of mind. And then you realize, man, I did it anyway, but I feel better as a result. So remember, acknowledge how you feel about the situation. Allow yourself to feel that way. Accommodate those feelings and invite them into your decision making. And appreciate the value that all of your emotions, positive and negative, have on your life. Remember to label the emotions, identify them, and observe how they are having an impact on you. That you are more than your feelings, that you are more than your thoughts. So think of the bigger picture. And to think of the bigger picture, it helps to be in an observer role where you're stepping outside yourself. And finally, take action and you will feel better in the long run. Thanks for listening.